according to the InterNACHI Home Inspection Standards of Practice. The home inspector shall inspect the foundation, the basement, crawl space, and structural components. The inspector also shall describe the type of foundation and the location of the access to the underfloor space. The home inspector shall report it is in need of correction, observed indications of wood in contact with or near soil, observed indications of active water penetration, observed indications of possible foundation movement, observed cutting, notching, and boring of framing members that may, in the inspector's opinion, present a structural or safety concern.
Hello, home inspection. Hello. So we just finished up the outside of the inspection. We're going to come in the house. We like to make some noise just in case there's anybody who's came in when we're in the backyard or something like that, because you don't ever want to surprise somebody in the restroom, in their bedroom, changing, things like that. But so as we're coming in the house, now we're going to go to the basement on this house, because we're going to look at the structure, the foundation, the basement floor, all the things relating to what's holding the house up. So we're going to head downstairs now. Okay, now, just came in from the outside, we're going to inspect the basement. As we're coming down the stairs, you want to make sure the handrail's tight. You want to make sure that we have a switch at the top and the bottom. You want to make sure we have an even run and that our rise is also even and proper. Now, part of our SOP is we're required to inspect the basement. Any underfloor areas, any visible notching, framing, things like that. When it's a finished basement, your inspection's pretty limited. As you're looking around, we can't see foundation walls. Ceiling, we can't see any structure. We can't see any support posts in here. You need to report on what you also can't see. So the underfloor framing was not visible for inspection. That's part of our standards. We want to know what we can't see. You're not required to move things. So as we're walking through, part of our interior inspection is we'll be checking our outlets, things like that. Part of our HVAC, which we kind of mix this up a little bit, but we'll be looking for returns, HVAC registers, things like that. So as we're coming in, again, part of our basement inspection is egress. We have a bedroom. Do we have an egress window? So that is part of what we're supposed to look at. Is the opening low enough? On a window well, is it high enough that we need a ladder? Do we have a ladder? As we come in, we're going to look and see, do we have gravel at the base of the window well? We always like to recommend water-resistant load-bearing covers just because of kids. We don't ever want anybody to get hurt. But again, as we look through, it's completely finished, so we can't see the structure. We can't see the walls. On the outside of the house, we could tell that we had poured concrete foundation. So your report's going to say poured concrete. It's going to say basement. And then your report should say the basement foundation walls were not visible, accessible for inspection. So as we come through, we're going to check our closet doors, look inside here, see if there's anything, any openings, things like that we actually can see a foundation. Sometimes there'll be a crawl space in a closet. So we want to make sure we look at those items. Now, let's just bring this up because it's here. Sometimes you will be looking at a house and you will open a closet or go in a bedroom and you will see guns. We always take pictures of them. Do not touch them. But remember, you're controlling the inspection. If there's kids at the inspection, you definitely want to let every adult know, and you might want to make sure that door gets locked or that nobody can get into that room, because you would hate to have a problem because people are coming in the house and the sellers are not always thinking about little kids. So bathrooms. As we're doing the foundation, of course, this is part of our interior inspection. But again, we can't see anything in here for structural. But as we're walking, we can tell, how does our basement floor feel? Is it flat? Is it level? As we hit it, this is concrete slab on grade. So we're not going to have an underfloor area. Sometimes when we do that, we hear an echo. So we know there's a crawl space underneath the basement floor. So in Colorado, we call it a void space. If there is, then there should be access. We should be able to get into it. Sometimes we will have a crawl space off the side. We'd also look for an access on the outside of the house. Typically, we would see vents, so we'd know there was a crawl space. A lot of times, you will have in a basement, the laundry. So we come in, here's our HVAC systems. So we'll be doing a full HVAC inspection. Here's our laundry. When we're in there, we look. If there's nothing in the washing machine, we will run it. If there's clothes, etc., we're not going to run it because we don't want to damage anybody's items. We're going to look in here. We have an accessible sewer cleanout. That gives me an indication that the basement was finished with permits. If we don't have any accessible cleanouts, a lot of times that means somebody did things without permits. As we look right here, our electrical, we're going to come back and look at this, but we have a legend. That is one of the first things a building inspector looks at, that and an arc fault. So that would tell me probably permits again. In here, as we come through here, just in our visual, here we can see some framing. So we do see a missing junction box cover for electrical. That's a safety issue. Now if we look at our boring here, you're allowed to bore no closer than 2 inches to the top or bottom of the joist. So typically boring in the center like they did for the electric is the best thing to do. We can see it over here also. I don't see any kind of notching, so that's okay. When we come back to HVAC, we will look at clearances to combustible materials, things like that. Do we have our 1 inch for a double wall flue? Okay, over here, this is the only part of the foundation that we can see. So we have concrete from here to here. So in our report, most portions of the basement foundation walls were not visible / accessible for inspection. Now I might put in a little parentheses that says a small portion was visible in the laundry, just so people know where it was that I could see. Again, we're going to look at the windows. That's not an egress window, but we did have an egress window in the bedroom. So we do have one for the house. Up above us, in the laundry, we have ceiling tiles. SOP, we are not required to remove ceiling tiles, not required to move clients' or sellers' belongings, things like that. I would never get in the habit of moving those ceiling tiles to look at things. People will ask you. The problem is if you damage one, you may not be able to match it, and they could be asbestos. So then now you can have a problem with damaging asbestos and you need to have it removed and mitigated. So our SOPs protect us from that. We're not required to look at it. If they're missing, great. You can look at more of the framing. If not, don't move them. We just briefly walked through this basement looking at what we could see and what we can't see. Typically when you're doing a home inspection, as you come downstairs, you will start checking the outlets. You will start checking all the windows. So you're not going to walk through the house and say, yes, the foundation looks good or bad. You're going to check that whole area. In fact, I recommend you do that as you walk through the house. That way you don't forget things. When you get to the bathroom, you want to inspect the bathroom. So yes, we have basically 10 areas of an inspection, but you are going to overlap and you are going to perform 2 or 3 sections at the same time, such as I'm inspecting the walls for cracks, things like that. I'm also checking the outlets. Are they reverse polarity? Are they correct polarity? Things like that. So your inspection, just make sure you do the same procedure every time. That way you don't forget, don't miss things. We've just finished section 3.3, which is the visible foundation, structure, etc. of the house. We are now going to start 3.4, which is the heating systems.